Hey everybody, what's going on? Dr. Chad Woolner here.
And Dr. Buddy Allen.
And this is episode 24 of the Health Fundamentals Podcast. And on today's episode, our discussion is going to be about this. Money doesn't create happiness, but this does, and it's free. So let's get started.
You're listening to the Health Fundamentals Podcast. I'm Dr. Chad Woolner.
And I'm Dr. Buddy Allen. And this show is about giving you the simple but powerful cutting-edge tools you need to change your health and your life.
So sit back and enjoy the show as we show you the path to your best life down to a science.
So hey everybody, we have a really cool subject for today that we're going to be talking about, and it's something that will create happiness faster than, better than, I guess, money.
Than even money.
There was a study that was done, and it showed something that I think should make perfect sense. But yeah, it was just cool to see that they had actually done an actual study on it. It was produced, or it was published in Lancet. Is that right?
In Lancet.
Yeah. So
and it was according to Yale and Oxford research
done
study,
at Yale and Oxford. So tell us about it.
So basically, this study said that exercise makes you happier than money. And it was interesting kind of how they went about it is they went deep into this whole topic, and they found a few neat things. A few episodes ago of our podcast, we talked about the minimum amount of being in the outdoors, right? That 2-hour minimal time that you spend in the outdoors each week is increases your health and well-being. And what this here was basically saying is exercise, and it was a pretty rad little study, is it increased your happiness more so than money did. And they said that the sweet spot was 3 to 5 times a week for 30 to 60 minutes.
Okay.
There was a couple other findings that I thought were kind of interesting. They actually said that exercising more than 3 hours per day actually had an opposite effect. It actually made you feel less satisfied or less happy. And then they said whether it was sports or exercise, they said that cycling and aerobic exercise did well, but they found that team sports actually was even a little bit greater boost in your happiness, and because you're doing something with others and
connecting and bonding.
Yeah, exactly. So, just a very simple, and I think these are just the little nuggets in life. It's like there's a lot of really small things that you can do that make a tremendous difference. We go from business to business, and we share the 30-minute reboot.
That's right.
And one of those 3 pieces, as far as increasing someone's, essentially health and well-being, their productivity, decreasing pain and things like that in their life, is making sure that they get in exercise. And sadly, most of us, exercise is one of those sometimes 4-letter words that, right. You're like, I would, but I don't have the time.
Well, not only that, but yeah, I don't even necessarily know if it's that people view it in a bad light, is that it just takes a back seat to other things that are less important. That TV time takes a greater is a greater priority, I think, oftentimes.
Yeah, it's not hard to do. It's just easier not to do.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly right. There are far too many other things that are just easier to do, that are more automatic, we'll say, than to actually put in the effort of the exercise, right?
Yeah.
And so it has to be something that has to be prioritized. I saw somebody say, you have to start making your, you have to prioritize in making your priorities a priority, or something like that is what it was. And I think that's the case when it comes to exercise, right? It has to be an essential priority. It does, because it is such a critical, far-reaching component or element of a happy, fulfilled, successful life, And I would argue personally, I would say that I think there is a very strong correlation, not necessarily causation or connection, but a very strong correlation between those who exercise consistently and also those who are more successful monetarily as well.
I think you're probably right.
I think you'll find the same effort, the same work ethic, the same discipline, the same mental toughness, whatever you want to call it, that is required for consistently engaging in regular exercise, those are going to be the same types of mental and physical attributes required to succeed in life in whatever career you choose,
Well, we were just talking shortly before this episode about running, how neither of us really care to run. In fact, don't like it much at all.
Right.
In fact, there was a point where I kind of really loathed it, and for that very reason, I signed up for a half marathon, because I figured if I'm ever going to get good at this, I have to force myself to do it.
And I think you're selling yourself a little bit short. I'm going to brag about Dr. Allen here real quick. It wasn't just any half marathon. This is notorious. This is a bad one. It's up a stinking mountain. And it's like, what, half of it at least, if not more of it, is uphill the entire way?
The first 8 miles is pretty much uphill.
Right, so that's more than half.
Yeah, it's a few 1,000-foot elevation climb.
Crazy.
And then I think the last 5-6 miles is 1,600 foot down the mountain.
Right.
But that being what we were talking about, or my big aha with running this particular race was, I'm running up this, it was about mile 7, and I saw this little sign that said, "Do more of what you love." And I know they were referring to running, and I'm like, this is not what I love.
Right.
But as after I finished this nasty little half marathon, I would have to say, I sat back and I'm like, while that was an incredibly hard experience and, just exhausting on many different levels, both the training and the actual event, I sat back and I'm like, that was a very good experience, even though it was really hard. And what I kind of realized was, if there's one thing that I really appreciate about running is it helps with your mental toughness, your mental fortitude, because that whole time, whether it was training or in the race, my mind is saying, this is hard. You should just stop and walk. And then I would say to myself, no, I want to do well with this. I want to complete it. And I would do these little self-assessments, like, am I breathing really hard? Like, no, not too bad. Are my legs exhausted? No. But my mind kept saying walk, because that was easier.
Right.
And so anyway, like, the long story was, it did really help with that realization, like, you're we're all way tougher than we think we are, right? We can do a lot. Yeah, we can do a lot more than we think we can. It just is one of those things that like we said, you got to make it a priority, and it does get better. It still isn't my favorite thing to do, but I have that appreciation for it.
Well, and I would just simply say, from an outsider's perspective, those who know Dr. Allen know he is probably one of the genuinely most happy people you'll ever meet. I think you're a pretty happy person. Would you consider yourself a happy person?
I would say I'm a pretty happy person.
Right. And I think that I think there's a very natural disposition or predisposition that you have towards being kind and or happy. But I think too, what you're talking about is proof or evidence of the fact that when you as a result of the exercise that you put in, because you exercise regularly. I know I know you do that. You and I used to do CrossFit together there for a couple of years, and I think for the most part, I tend to be pretty happy. As well, and this isn't some sort of trying to convince people that exercise helps you be happy. Sure. It's one of those things where you find out for yourself when you do it, especially when you do it consistently, you find it really does make a huge difference. There have been times in my life I can clearly see when I haven't been as active and haven't exercised as much. And it's very obvious to me to see that those also happen to be, not coincidentally, times in my life where I haven't been nearly as happy as when I've been actively engaged. And so it's one of those things where I think it's self-evident when we talk about this, that exercise would help to create a happiness. And I think it's one of those things too, where it's like, I think we have this tendency naturally to gravitate towards things that would make money and think that would generate happiness. But the reality of it is, if we would put our health, i.e. exercise, first, I think that so many other wonderful things would fall into place.
Those same disciplines that are necessary in creating health, doing things that you don't feel like doing oftentimes, but doing it anyways, are the same disciplines that will help you be successful in your business,
absolutely,
in your career, and other things that push you forward in life.
Right. There's a great book by Jocko Willink. He's a former Navy SEAL turned entrepreneur, leadership development guy. And the book, the title of the book is such a powerful phrase in and of itself. The title is Discipline Equals Freedom. And I love that concept because it is so profound and simple and true. That the greater we can learn to improve and increase our self-discipline, our intrinsic motivation, our mental toughness, like you said, I think we will find greater opportunities will open for us in our life, thus creating greater happiness and fulfillment and success in every. It literally bleeds over into every other aspect of our life, truly. So hopefully this has got you a little bit more excited and or motivated to exercise.
Yeah, I mean, because money is important for happiness.
You bet.
If you're broke and destitute, it's hard to be happy.
Right.
But understanding that something as simple as exercise could make you happier than even money.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it's free.
It
doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to have a gym. You could literally anyone can run.
That's right.
So anyone can go out and
walk, run,
do
hike.
Whatever.
Yeah.
So anyways, all right. Well, hopefully this has been helpful for you guys, and we're excited to share even more with you guys on upcoming episodes.
Yep.
We'll talk to you guys soon.
Thanks for listening to the Health Fundamentals Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so that you stay in the loop and in the know with all of the cutting-edge health information that we share. If you know other people that could benefit from this information, please share it with them as well. Also, be sure to give us a review. These really help us to ultimately help more people. Last but not least, if you have questions that you want answered live on the show, or if you have ideas for topics that you would like us to cover, please shoot us an email and let us know at info@thehealthfundamentals.com.